Hey, what's going on everyone? Jay's 2 cents here, and we got a fun one for you because we are gonna mix tech with shenanigans and car content, because today's video is sponsored by Insta360 and their new X3 action cam. This is a 360-degree, extremely robust action cam that allows you to get way more creative than I ever could. So anyway, there's a lot of different ways you could utilize an action cam. First of all, what is an action cam? An action cam is any camera that you would use or attach to something to just get a unique angle of something that is happening, whether it be motorcycle riding, bike riding, hiking, driving your car, helmet mounted stuff in race cars, or lots of really just endless uses for an action cam. But the problem with action cams that exist today, like the GoPro, is the fact that they only give you one point of view, and that's it. The Insta360, the X3, this is the newest version of their very, very popular 360 cameras. Fun fact, just recently I went on a car cruise with the Audi group here in LA, and several people had Insta360s on their car. And it was one of those things I hadn't really paid much attention to until they were like, hey, do you want to do something with us? And since we loved their Insta360 Link webcam that I now use every single live stream at home, and you guys saw that crazy review we did on that where it was actually shot on that webcam, I owe it to myself to take a look at what the buzz is all about when it comes to Insta360. So what essentially happens here is, instead of having one static view, which don't get me wrong, you can have a single view recording if you want with this camera. You can choose which camera it uses, whether it's the selfie cam or the outside cam. They call it inside and outside. But what it does is each camera is a 1/2-inch sensor, 5K resolution per camera, that creates a just greater than 180-degree half sphere of video on both sides, and then stitches it together. So what it does is, because it goes a little bit over 180, it can actually overlap those images. And what that allows it to do is to be able to intelligently remove like the selfie stick. So this is the invisible stick from Insta360. This is their short one right here. This is made out of aluminum. It's telescoping so that you can get it to be about the right length that you want. Because when you're using a 360 camera like this, you want to get it away from you as far as possible, because that gives you some really interesting and unique angles. The downside is if you're holding it right here, with your hand being so close to it, you might get some fingers and stuff in view, because remember the camera does point straight down as well. So using a selfie stick for this is actually pretty important. But the cool thing about their selfie sticks, and they have an entire studio library or catalog of accessories, like there's so many accessories I can't even possibly limit them all, but we've got some suction cup mounts here, we've got some 3M tape dash mounts and stuff that you can stick it anywhere, rotatable. Heck, this guy right here that is basically even being used as a little mini tripod, and you see how it turns? Don't let this fool you. It's not just a tripod. This is also their bullet cam, which allows you to attach the tripod diagonally or vertical 90 degrees on it. That allows you to then be able to attach the camera to the end of it, extend it out, go into bullet time mode on the settings for the camera, which puts it into a 4K 120 FPS, where you then start swinging this thing around over your head. Not smacking me or the mic, which is great. I'm surprised I didn't do that. So that you can get really interesting footage like this. And never mind the fact that Nick is T-posing. I didn't actually give him an instruction, so that's the default for Nick, which is fine. We love Nick. T-posing Nick is great. So as you can see, they came up with a perfect device here that is just dual duty, what allows you to, now looks like a satellite. Doot. Doot. So you have a selfie stick that you can attach to that, but you can also perfectly use it as a tripod, and then you just turn the knob here, it locks down, and it's just a little desk tripod, which we'll be using for part of this video as we talk about it. But let's say you need more than that. This is the 3-meter selfie stick. So anyway, this is what we'll be using for the car section of the video. It's made out of carbon fiber. It's very strong and robust. It is 3 meters, 9 feet, just over 9 feet. It's like 9.9 feet or something like that. Anyway, tons of accessories, even strings you can swing it around on and whatnot. But we're not here to talk about the accessories. We're here to talk about the camera itself. Like I said, 5K 30 FPS, or 25 or 20, you can adjust the FPS as you want. 4K 60, which is like an amazing, like perfect, nice smooth flow rate, but also it's gonna be sharp enough to where, because the reason why you want high res, and people kind of forget this, is even though we're shooting in 4K right now in this one image and it's just me, it has to gather all of this And to do that twice to stitch together to get you that really high def sphere of information. Otherwise it would just be kind of a blocky pixelated mess because the sensor isn't just sharp enough to gather all of that inside that sphere, if that makes sense. So we're talking like nearly 10K of pixels here happening in a 360 image. So one of the things that's a major improvement on the X3 versus the X2 is just the size of the display. So the display, and I'll go ahead and turn it on right now, obviously is really handy because of the fact that you can easily change settings. You're not just having to go through like it always sounds so happy when it turns on. You're not having to sit there and go through a stupid little screen to try and figure out what's happening. So it's touchscreen as well as having buttons. So I just went ahead and switched the camera right now. So, hey, there's me sitting on sideways. Anyway, so if we swipe up, we get some of the different recording modes. So there's 4K 30. We can switch it to 3.K, 6K, 2.7K, 1080p. But we'll go 4K, and then there's 30, 25, 24. And the reason why it is doing that is because of the FOV mode that we had set. So anyway, here's the display. You can see right here what the camera is actually seeing. You can only display one image at a time. If you swipe around, you can immediately start changing the different video modes. So you see we have single lens mode and 360 mode. So what options you get available to you are gonna depend entirely on whether or not you're filming with both cameras or one. So selfie mode, or the me mode, which even shows a little picture of the selfie stick, automatically is gonna use the camera facing you. And then in post, you can even go in and do an AI lock on your face, which will allow it to always track you. So if you were like swinging it around or whatever, it would always keep you in the frame, which is pretty awesome. But if we go ahead and change the mode down to 360, you can see we get quite a few different things here. So we got video, we've got active HDR. And the cool thing about HDR is the fact that it does a really good job at giving you, as it's loading here, you can see 5.7K by 30 FPS, but while also giving you an HDR image so you don't get blown out skies or you don't get this, let's say you're inside of a car, perfect example. You have yourself in there, which is not in direct sunlight, but you have anything outside of the vehicle or out of the windows being extremely bright because it's in direct sunlight. So HDR will allow it to capture data in those high scenes and those highlights and not lose them to just a plain white image. So one of the major differences between the X3 and the X2 is going to be the actual size of the screen. So the X2 had a display, but this is even larger now. And obviously having a larger display makes it easier to set up on the fly, allowing you to change settings, change modes, and get a real good idea of what your cropping or framing looks like as you use the device. So on this end here, we have a power button. You see there, it's actually just denoted as a power button. Right below that, you have a Q. That's for the quick menu. The quick menu allows you to pull up and start changing things like, well, we'll show you when we show you guys the app. On the bottom, we have a corner 20 thread. This is gonna be perfect for any of your mounts. It's an extremely standard mount when it comes to cameras. So this is how you're gonna attach it to your different devices. Our battery is right here. You can see we have two locks. That way you don't accidentally pop your battery out. But here's your battery right here. And you can see it's a pretty good chunk of the overall size of the device right here. So this is gonna give you the longest battery life because obviously if you're doing a lot of stuff out in the open, and you're doing sports or skiing or hiking or whatever, you want long battery life so that you can capture as much footage as possible. And then down inside of here is actually where you have your micro SD card. So this happens to be a 128 micro SD. You wanna make sure that the micro SD is up to speed for the type of data that you're collecting because of the fact that micro SD cards do come in multiple speeds. This is the speed that is absolutely recommended for using the X3. Otherwise, you're gonna have some issues regarding the card's recording speed, and especially when you're trying to write up to 5.7K at 30 FPS worth of data. Now underneath this top cover, you have a little release button and a hinge. That is our USB-C. That is gonna be our data port as well as our charger port. Fun fact, you can do external charging while using it and recording. So if you wanted to use a battery pack with this for ultra long time lapse, because you can do time lapses with this, and I really wish I had this when we were doing our backyard reno because I used a GoPro for that, and this would have been cool to have a time lapse of like, maybe it was returning as it's time lapsing. There would have been a lot of cool stuff I could have done that unfortunately I was limited by. So anyway, USB-C and data port so that you can connect it like a drive to your computer to transfer data, or you can just wirelessly connect it to your phone to transfer data. So let me go and put the battery back in. And then if we take a look at the face right here with the screen, this little circle button here is your record button. But if the power is off, and you hit this circle, it will immediately power on and start recording in whatever the most recent mode was. So it's kind of like, oh, I wanna get there, okay, boom. You can like quickly run and gun with it and not miss anything. And then if it's recording, as soon as you stop recording, it'll default back to the off state. So it's kind of nice to be able to have that quick shooting mode. You can disable that feature, that way if it gets bumped in your bag or something, you don't now have an hour-and-a-half footage of the inside of your backpack in ultra black 360.
And a dead battery.
And a dead battery. And then these two squares right here, this is just to switch the preview on the screen between the inside camera or the outside camera. All right, so enough talking about the dimensions and stuff. And by the way, I have to say this, if weight / thickness indicates quality, then this right here, it's like that old scene from Jurassic Park. Is it heavy? Yeah, then it's expensive, put it back. Well, this is an amazing value for what you get, as well as robust, because action cams must, it did a perfect balance, must be able to withstand user abuse. Otherwise, they don't last very long. This thing, you could club somebody with this.
Disclaimer, Jay's 2 cents doesn't actually condone clubbing people. Unless, of course, they don't own an Insta360.
All right, so now it's time to kind of take a tour of the Insta360 X3 here. So there's a companion app that's available for both Android and iPhone, and there's a desktop studio app that works on both Windows and Mac. I highly recommend utilizing the studio on your desktop where possible, because you can actually do a ProRes export, which will give you like amazing quality. However, action cams are all about being on the go. So having the ability to do full edits and 360 manipulation, we'll show you exactly how you can do that, all on the phone, mean that you'd be able to record, edit, and upload all from your phone while, in this instance, never leaving the ski slopes. So it's pretty awesome. But anyway, it's gonna look really dark because that side of our studio is extremely dark. But if I hit this button here, it'll switch the camera, and now you'll see me and Phil. There's Phil, and there's me. So we got a bunch of different modes here. It says we got loop mode or record, which is just continuous recording. And then when you stop recording, it basically only saves the last few minutes of your clip. And that's perfect for if you were trying to capture like lightning or something like that. Basically, it's like, think of it as like an end trigger. But instead of just having it sitting there, buffer recording and then hitting record at the end, you just hit record and it will go nonstop until you stop it. And then it will save the last bit of data. But our different modes here, and this is for single lens, and single lens means it's just gonna be using the camera facing us or the camera facing forward for whichever camera we choose. We can even use it as a camera because it's got such a high, half-inch sensors, and definitely a good size sensor, and it's such high resolution, being able to do camera, like just plain old cameras, is pretty awesome. Obviously we've got video and such, but as soon as we hit 360, we now get a bunch of other stuff. Active HDR is awesome, because of the fact that, like I said already, when you're outside, the sun can be extremely harsh. And I don't just mean like for sunburns and stuff. I mean just blowing out things, losing color, losing cloud data in the sky because the white is too close to the blue and then exposing for people's skin tones. HDR does a great job at being able to capture 5.7K at 30 FPS and be able to capture the HDR tone mapping that's gonna take place in the sky or the shadows or wherever. It's actually a really good job. Time lapse is pretty self-explanatory. Time shift is also where you can take something and slow it down. So bullet time. This is, like I already showed you guys, a really interesting example of just being able to have like kind of that matrix thing going on, only you don't need 160 cameras in a circle around you to do it. And the cool thing is, it, even in bullet time, is able to, while this is swinging around, remove it from the scene because it's stationary. Star lapse is something I really want to try with my daughter. My daughter, my 8-year-old, is extremely into astronomy, like stars and black holes and all of that. It's designed for you to be able to kind of like capture the stars and see them moving and stuff. Burst for photos, interval, HDR photo, but there's a ton of modes. Now, if we go ahead and connect to it on the phone, you get even more stuff available to you. So if we hit phone, it's gonna connect to it it's gonna try via Bluetooth, but I have it connecting via Wi-Fi because Wi-Fi is a faster connection than Bluetooth. So it'll actually connect to the camera direct Wi-Fi, hit join. And then we will get our camera here. And now we can see what the camera sees. And when the app is on, it will automatically turn off the screen on the Insta360 to save its battery life. So let your phone battery life get used while the Insta360 saves power for recording. But check this out. I can move the image around right here on the app. Now, do you see how seamless that stitching is happening? I saw Nick over there. There's Nick. Wave hi. If we come down here to the bottom, you can see there's all those same settings that you guys saw. I can just scroll along the bottom and then active HDR, bullet time. Let's say you want to manipulate the video settings yourself. You can absolutely do that. So here's the white balance, there's auto. We can change the white balance in there. But we can technically change basically anything that we want with the phone. We can change the ISO, we can change the shutter speed. So if you're in a bright environment or you're outdoors and you just want to really kind of take control over the way that the camera deals with the lighting and the color, you can absolutely do all of that yourself. If you have any questions about how something works, there is a built-in tutorial right into the app. So if you're just like, how does this work? Then yeah, you guys can see that it's pretty intuitive in that it allows you to at least get help on the fly if you need it. So we got the hamburger menu here, which is just pulls up the different shooting modes that are down there. So we did film some test footage here. So without doing anything, this is just what the footage looks like.
Okay, it's not grass, but it'll do.
You might notice right now it's following Nick. And that's because we actually already told it, we already have a tracking on there for Nick, but we can actually remove that. So you can see now, it's not gonna track Nick. It's just tracking its heading because I turned off the AI tracker. So let's say Nick is the, now let's not forget, I'm here holding it, so there I am. And there's the car that almost pulled out in front of that car, if you guys are wondering what was happening there. So here we go, here's the same clip. And you see how we have a little plus sign? It'll actually recognize when it sees a person. So let's go ahead and spend the first half maybe, and you can even pinch in and crop. So you see it gives you the crop lines. You don't have to keep it in ultra wide angle like this. That's how much it's actually recording. You can go all the way to Little Mini Planet if you want, but let's just say we're using this as like a vlog camera. Basically, this is gonna put Phil out of a job someday because we can do things like this. So let's go ahead now and let's do deep track. So it's gonna use deep learning to basically track that sexy face right there. So check it out. Look, watch as it actively tracks him. So now I've tracked him up to that point. So if I go ahead now and put this back to the beginning, this is what we got.
Switching back and forth between two. We're outside, should we touch some grass? Behind it. Okay, it's not grass, but it'll do.
Okay, so if you wanna make some edits in 360, you've got all the data here, right? There's me holding it, there's Nick talking to me, and I basically just have the selfie stick like this up in front of me, and it's in between both of us, right? So the camera's in the middle of both of us. So that's why we're both in the shot like this. So if I wanted to, let's say, track him, I can hit deep track, which says select subject to track. So I'm gonna highlight Nick, there it is, hit start tracking, and I'm gonna track to where he basically points at the grass, right there. And then from that point forward, I'm now going to track me and hit start tracking. Now I'm gonna go back to Nick because I'm just kind of creating keyframes here that are telling it to do something. Start tracking. That was when the car honked. So now we'll do another deep track. Zoom in on this car, hit the plus. Stop tracking. And then now I'm gonna put it back to me because this is where I'm an idiot. And then I said, we almost died, but we didn't. So here's all the little quick edit that I just did.
Switching back and forth between two. We're outside, should we touch some grass? Behind it. Okay, it's not grass, but it'll do. Alright, I'm gonna get inside. Ready for you getting sunburned? Yeah. We almost died.
Okay, so if you don't want to sit here and be swiping around with your fingers, you can actually edit this by using the snap function and moving your phone. So check this out. I am now moving if anyone's ever watched a 360 video on YouTube using your phone, you know exactly how you can do this. But you can use this as an editing feature. And I'm gonna look kind of silly right now swinging around in my chair, and I've watched the clip enough to know exactly where to point the camera. But if you long press on record right here, it'll start playing, and then you can move your camera as the editor. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go ahead and kind of choreograph some movements here with the camera, and then we'll show you how it goes. So as soon as I hit long press on record.
You look kind of stupid. Are you a tourist? You're a tour guide? Holding the mic?
Okay, so let's just see how that turned out. Are you ready?
You look kind of stupid. Are you a tourist? Or the tour guide? Holding the flag? Wait. That's actually kind of cool. Oh.
I'm the director now. So there was the pinch to zoom right there.
Ooh, flowers. They got flowers that have bees that want to kill you.
Can't really see the helicopter because the screen's so small, but the helicopter, it could see the helicopter.
I'm sure it can get it with HDR. Yeah. But it's just crap.
So there you go. You guys, you get the idea. The amount of stuff that you can do with this is insane. And you don't need a computer to do it. You can do it with your phone or your tablet or whatever. Anyway, we live in one of the most amazing areas in Southern California regarding driving roads and forestry. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take two cameras. I've got two X3s. I'm gonna put one on a bumper mount. Basically, it's gonna come off the hatch of my car. And I've got a triple suction cup, and I'm gonna extend the selfie arm so you have that kind of a third person like driving game kind of view. And I'm gonna be wearing one of the X3s inside the car with a chest mount so you get that first person driving view. We'll go ahead and kind of put together a neat video, maybe just a little short reel here of just how you can use this camera in some creative ways in one of the most amazing areas in the state when it comes to driving. Okay, so here we are at the top of Mount Baldy, right by the ski resorts. If you guys are familiar with SoCal at all, then you'll know that the Angeles National Forest goes for a very long way. Anyway, we tried to actually go to Azusa Canyon. I probably should have looked at traffic first. They're hanging these rock nets along the wall right now, which are designed to protect rocks from falling into the roadway. So I ended up losing almost 2 hours getting there, sitting in traffic, and then coming just back to Baldy. The problem with Baldy, it's not a very long road, but long enough. I should have just gone to Tahunga or Angeles Crest. But anyway, let me go ahead and show you the setup. So as you can see, I've got my chest mount right here, and this is going to give you sort of that first person view. It's not, say, as high as like if it were up at face level, but I didn't want to wear the head strap because I have a head strap mount as well. But the problem with that is that if I have the head strap mounted, it's going to put me like really, the camera really close to the roof of the car and maybe even hit it because I'm a tall person in a short car. So that's not gonna work. But anyway, this is how we're getting the first person kind of view. It's not it's not as high as iVision, but this will work for me. And then I'll show you the car setup. So this is my 2020 R8. It's basically a base model. Basically a base model. Look, it looks like a remote control car, or like it's running off one of those like trolley car tracks with the electrical line above it. But anyway, as you can see right here, it is supercharged. Anyway, you can see I've got the triple suction cup mount, but then I've got this kind of a supporting mount right here, just to keep this from having any chance of like coming backwards. That was just for extra support because as you can see, I have it extended pretty far because we want to get it past the back of the car. That way we have what appears to be like a video game view. But anyway, there's the Insta360 camera right there. And then you guys will have a pretty interesting view of the car that way. But I've got Nick along for the ride because he's monitoring all the audio. We do have a microphone right here as well. We'll do some clips as well to show you how the audio sounds with the camera mic built in. With the wind reduction mode, it is surprisingly good when we're driving. But I do have this microphone here mounted to my wing. I tried mounting it to the bumper. It was far too loud of an exhaust to allow that to not, crackle the mic.
I'm deaf now.
Yeah, Nick's deaf now because he was monitoring it. But I want to point out that there is an accessory for the Insta360 X3 on the side where the USB-C is that basically plugs in, and then it gives you a mic adapter. So if you have a different mic you want to use, you can do that. Anyway, it's a beautiful day. It is in the upper 70s. We've got this thing to drive down the mountain. Why don't you guys go ahead and go for a ride with me? I swear it looks like a remote control car. everything you just heard actually came from the Insta360 X3's built-in microphone, from both the camera sticking up in the middle of the air going the speed limit, and the chest mic from inside the car. So there was no trickery, there was no post-processing of audio, and that microphone that I showed you mounted to my wing wasn't even the one we used for this video.
Because it sounded like this.
But with all of that said, realistically, you don't have to worry about framing any of your shots while you're filming. Just set your mode to the appropriate mode for what you're planning on filming, and then worry about all of it in post. It's all done after the fact. So it's really weird to think that everything you see sitting right here is enough to create it's like a complete outdoor studio with creating awesome action footage, whether it be just walking and talking. One feature I didn't even talk about is the fact that this camera can sync with your phone and your live social media. So whether it be Facebook Live or Instagram Live, Twitter, YouTube, you can use this as a live wireless camera to your phone with your selfie stick and stuff. So and then with having it do the smart tracking and following you, it is pretty insane. But the most amazing thing, especially with the driving videos, the fact that you can have flow state stabilization, which as the camera is bouncing around, because it's a rough road, and when you extend this thing out, it does have some flex to it, even though it's carbon fiber, and especially with the weight of the X3, it doesn't care because it smooths it out so beautifully, you would never notice that it was vibrating all over the place. I mean, especially with speed and being out there in the wind. I've done many track days in my car where I have been 3 GoPros mounted to it to get the different angles I needed. And now with the fact that it has a split view, which is almost like a dash cam view, if you will, where you use a suction cup on the windshield and you have it pointing straight down like this. You have one camera facing the driver and one camera facing out over the hood. And because you can independently change the exposure of each camera, you could have the camera that's facing out be exposed for that brightness and the camera facing in to the driver exposed for the interior brightness of the vehicle. One camera would have given me everything I needed to show my driving instructor, 1, the driving line of the car, and 2, what I'm doing inside the car. One camera can give you all that. It's insane. If you had 2 of them, one on top of the car, one forward, one rear, and you have a 360 camera there, there's just so many possibilities. We have seen these cameras used in aviation videos. We have seen them used in racing videos. There is no shortage of Insta360 360 camera videos out there. And to think that literally, this is all you need, it's kind of nuts. And 5.7K on top of it. So anyway, this is where I go ahead and say, thanks for watching today's video. Right now, Insta360 is, through my affiliate link down below, they are giving you a free gift for ordering an X3. You guys will get your very own invisible selfie stick as well if you order using our affiliate down below. So once again, a huge thanks to Insta360 for trusting us to bring this content to you. And you know what? Honestly, giving me a reason to go outside these days is a lot of fun. And it was important that we went outside when we were doing bullet time because it did have extended this far. Bad things would have happened in here if I was doing that. Microphone, woo. Anyway, all right guys, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If you have any neat ideas that you think we could use this camera for in our PC building stuff, I thought it'd be kind of neat to just have one of these mounted inside a computer while you're building it. And then you can move around and look at it while it's being built. That would be a fun video to just raw 360, upload to YouTube, no editing, you move it around as we're doing the work. The only thing limiting what you can do with the X3 is your own imagination. And between the 3 of us, I feel like we have at least one imagination, so.
Maybe.
A half. All right guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. What if I connect both sticks together?